Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Matthew here with Crescentville. We're working on a self-graded card video with a Jam Masters Michael Jordan insert card, Upper Deck 1997. Beautiful card. It's an interesting card overall. A lot of people it's sought after. It's a collector's item, and we're going to dive into a review of it. But before we do that, we're going to get into a quick disclaimer. Whenever we do these self-graded card videos, these are essentially my grades. They are not guaranteed to cross over to other grading companies at these grades. And also, the grade does not guarantee the monetary value of the card's price will increase. Those are essentially the disclaimers. The card will be sold as raw. And the reason why I do this is because eBay has a requirement that you essentially kind of put the condition in a raw card whenever you're posting. So they give you like near mint, they give you excellent good. And I just want to be more detailed. I think that whenever I'm selling a little bit more higher end cards that cost a little bit more money, that my buyers, I would like them to be able to cross-reference the YouTube channel, say, okay, if I'm going to buy this card, I would like to see it at different angles. I'd like an in-depth analysis on this, and then that'll help essentially determine if I want to buy it or not. So many times you'll see on eBay a card will, I guess, not have as thorough photos as it possibly could. And this is basically not only keeping myself accountable, it's, hopefully elevating the hobby overall to getting more detailed with the photos and the assessment of the card whenever we're going to sell. So here we go. These cards were bought at Bankston's in Waco. It is a local card shop, been around for several years, probably even decades. And one of my favorite local card shops because I'm here in Waco. All right, so the card that we're going to be reviewing today is this Jam Masters, and we're going to be taking a closer look at that. I think the edges down here is probably like I don't want to say issue, but like probably the highest amount of imperfections, inconsistencies. This lower edge is what we're going to be taking a really close look at and determining a subgrade for that edge, along with the other edges. Some other cards I purchased at a fair price, excellent price, was this Supreme Court Michael Jordan card. The centering is definitely leaning more on that right side, or the left side than the right side. So we're going to see, cross-reference this, and we'll probably grade this card as well. I have another one, but I want to do a bit more cross-referencing before I dive into a grade of this. The card that we're reviewing today I've cross-referenced and even bought several copies, graded copies. So that is going to, I'll understand a lot of the centering. We'll talk about the centering. We'll talk about other cross-referenced data on that card here in a moment. Some other cards I purchased. I love this Upper Deck 1992-1993. This is a dunk pose. Beautiful. Only thing about it is a corner is slightly dinged on it, so fair price on that. This Fleer Ultra card, I haven't done a self-graded card. I will definitely do one. And this card might make the cut. I'm not seeing too much damage on the corners and the edges. A lot of the time I'll see the edges sometimes experience some wear. So we got that. And then also here, this is a Jordan collection. And if you go to our eBay, and please do go to the eBay, we'll link every one of these videos to the eBay posting. You can check out their stuff in the store, but we have essentially what's called the Jordan Collection, which is a collection of Michael Jordan cards. That Upper Deck Collector's Choice is a reflection of that. This Fleer card, a lot of times you'll see wear on the edges for these as well and corners. And this one came out looking pretty clean, so this might get a self-grade card review. It might get thrown into a lot. These cards, like $2 a piece. Now, I've seen them increase the value on some other Michael Jordan cards. And so these cards, they may get graded. They may get thrown into a lot or into extras that if we sell, like we have one lot today that sold for about $90. Those cards would be, added to the allotment. So let's dive into the card review for this Upper Deck. We'll go ahead and just start with the surface. Get a pen ready. We will start to record each of the data points, and the surface looks pretty clean overall. What you'll see if you buy several of these copies or find it interesting is the coloring. There is essentially almost bright white, and then it goes to a slight beige. But surface we'll do first. Technically, I usually do centering first. We'll do centering next, edges, and then corners. And then we'll do an overall grade. Yeah, we'll start with surface just because I think the surface is really clean. Now, the coloring to it can kind of be a differential condition to the card, but like essentially in between being white and to an off-white, I think it's definitely on the right side. So it looks like almost a piece of fuzz, or it might be an imperfection on the surface of the card. Let's see real quick. Let's see if that got it. So only showing at certain angles, but we'll have to. I don't believe that's part of the manufacturing of the card. I do believe that part right there, and what you can kind of see what I'm pointing at right there. And you cut the fingernails. I get now very self-conscious on my fingernail length after doing all these videos. Almost like I become a hand model, and I'm a man's man. I don't think a lot about my fingernail length. So I almost have to apologize to my viewers for, I'd almost say, in my grotesque fingernail length, but I just removed some fuzz on different parts of the surface that looks very similar to that. But that part is not coming off, and that will essentially bring down our surface score. There's another one there. So yeah, after purchasing multiple versions of this card, I am fully aware of what should and should not be on this surface. And that should not be on the surface. So there's now 2 spots that essentially brings it down to probably an 8.5. That's a pretty significant. I could almost see it with a naked eye. Yeah, so that brings it down to an 8 to an 8.5 on the surface, because essentially if there is a piece to the card that should not be there, then that brings the overall grade down. Check the back of it. Back looks clean. Good, that wasn't part of that corner. But yeah, clean back. Not seeing any imperfections here. But on the front, there is 2 imperfections. And that goes into, well, what do we rate it an 8 or an 8.5? And since I can see it with the naked eye, I'm going to have to give that an 8 for the surface. And let's go ahead and dive into, we were talking about the edges at the top of the video. So the edges is something that, we can kind of take a look at with this jeweler. Some people say, hey, I want you to get better equipment, and it would be the a microscope. And there's essentially like, you can really dive in deep with a microscope to see every slight flaw, but I go by, is it visible by the naked eye? And then when I zoom in, how much imperfections do I see then? And you obviously can see everything underneath the microscope, and to a degree, do I really want that level of detail in my reviews? Because you could essentially nitpick it to death if you go that route. So I kind of like the current route I'm at. So you can kind of see the surface here, or it's almost the surface of the edge. And you can kind of see it's a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit like a sharper. And when we get down to this, it's almost like it has more, I don't even know if it's wear. I almost look at like when the manufacturer cut it. They just cut it at, I don't want to know if it's an angle. I'm not sure how the cutting goes whenever they're doing these cards, but there's more of ridges on the edge on that one. So we could almost say like, well, one of the edges has significant ridges, where the other edges, let's take a look at this. So a little bit there. So just a little bit on is that left edge? I believe it's left edge. top edge, not bad, but that bottom edge is probably, I would give that, and I don't even know if it's really like wear. It's just really a ridged effect whenever they cut it. I don't really think that's wear. I think that's the manufacturer thing. So I probably give that edge probably an 8 to an 8.5, and the other edges 9 to 9.5. So overall 8.5 for the edges is what I'm going to arrive at. The centering, all right. So the centering, I would put almost, I don't want to say difficult, but, well, yeah, the card does not center extremely well, is what happens whenever I've seen grades of this. And it comes down to like top to bottom a lot of the time, where it's just whenever they cut it or printed it off, a lot of the cards have less room at the top and more room at the bottom on front and back. So it's like my anchor point really should be the Upper Deck logo at the top. And honestly, it should have a similar space between here and then I would almost say the Bull logo at the bottom. But so it's really 2 there. And then this is going to probably be pretty significant. 4. So yeah, that is a pretty big difference. And I don't really have an anchor point to the right. I guess the Bulls text could be considered an anchor point, and that's 1, really 2, 1, 2, yeah. And then I know this logo is an anchor point for sure, but I don't really have much to go off of for the other side. So this is more 1, 2, 3, 4. The other one was 2. Guess this logo here, let's see what it comes to. 1, 2, 3. So whenever I go over to here, this is an anchor point for sure. And then that's really on 2.5. 1, 2, 3. So left or right on the back is pretty okay. Top to bottom, I'll be lucky to get this to even get 2. Yeah, 2. And then I know this down here, probably the text to the logo is all anchor points. So just remind 2 at the top and then 3.5. 3.5 at the bottom. So a lot of discrepancies in the centering to this card. But I've also seen several grades come out for this card and they grade this centering far better than I do. And they just, well, more lenient is a better word. So, you know, it's tough. The overall card is tough to grade. It just, that's the situation. I'm going to be doing a 9 on the centering because overall just, there is discrepancies, but if you cross-reference it to other cards, this kind of centering would often get a 9. So feel free to cross-reference. Feel free to check out other cards with other grading companies. Like I'm saying, I've already bought this numerous times over with other gradeds. I've graded it myself. So yeah. Up next, corners. Let's take a look at the corners and see how they essentially are as far as sharpness. So, you know, I always find it somewhat difficult, but now I'm getting better at it, to find sharpness in a white corner. And I can kind of see a bit of rounding here. So that's like an 8.5 corner for me. That corner is about a 9. That's sharper. So we have an 8.5 and a 9 so far on our corners. In between an 8.5 and a 9. Could probably lean towards a 9 for our corners. Oh, this one's 8.5. So in between an 8.5 and a 9 for our corners. So we currently have an 8 and a 9, which comes out to an 8.5. We're going to do an 8.5 for the corners, and the overall card will get an 8.5. So yeah, the surface an 8, centering 9, edges 8.5, corners 8.5, total score 8.5. And that's what we essentially call that is near mint to mint plus. And to be honest, that's what this card is. It's an 8.5. A bit of the surface we pointed out. And, that's what we do. We show each of the flaws to the card. We say, hey, could grade higher, could grade lower. That is just part of the subjectivity in grading. So thank you for watching and continue to watch.